Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhaled frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
All right, welcome back, everybody. 4:02 in the Pacific Time Zone. I'm Radical Russ. It's time for Toker Talk Radio, Hour 2 of the Russ Belville Show. There's going to be some changes coming up. Big changes coming up for Russ Belville Show and Toker Talk Radio. This next week, Wednesday, is our 2-year anniversary. It'll be show number, let's see, this is 401, 4243, 404, 406. Show 406 will be our 2-year anniversary that we've gone with. June 4th, 2012 was our first independent Russ Belville show on what was then National Cannabis Radio. And then, it was PotNet, then National Cannabis Radio, and then 420 Radio. So the network has evolved, but the show has been independent for 2 years, and I'm so glad to be doing it and so thankful to all of you who continue to listen and continue to support, continue to tell your friends all about the Russ Belville show. Jenna Broom today on Facebook told me she got her dad addicted to the Russ Belville show. So thank you, Jenna Broom's dad, for listening. And thanks to you VIP members who continue to support. I finally got in the new shipment of pins. So soon I will be mailing out to the long-time members your membership pin that has been waiting for so long. And I appreciate your patience on this. This is kind of a one-man operation in most respects, aside from, Herb Thrasher's helpful and all of our, music editors and so forth. But when it comes to all that swag and sales and packaging and mailing and stuff, that's pretty much me. So I will get to it, I promise. It's coming. I just mailed out stuff to John J out there, one of our listeners, one of our platinum supporters. So his pin is on its way, and we'll get some swag out to the rest of you too. If you'd like to become a VIP member and get a discount in our 420 Radio store, access to our 420 Radio VIP media, and other great swag and great benefits, you can just join at 420radio.org. Look at the top menu for VIP membership, and you can join that way for as little as $4.20 a month at the copper membership level. You can move up to bronze at $9.99, silver at $19.99, and so forth. So check out our membership rates at 420radio.org, because we're listener-supported public cannabis community radio. That's the whole idea. I want to make sure that we got a place for people like Rebecca who need to get out and tell the cannabis community what's going on in North Carolina. And then, we want to have some place that somewhere where we can go and cover all these events around the country, not just Colorado and California, but Boston and Tulsa and Dallas and Minneapolis and Joplin and Columbia and all sorts of other places, Nashville, where people are fighting to change marijuana laws. I'm reading a little bit in our chat room, some of our listeners, longtime fighters for marijuana legalization, and it gets frustrating sometimes. It gets frustrating that more people won't stand up for marijuana legalization. Well, it's been crafted very well. Prohibition has. Harry J. Anslinger didn't get to be the top of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics and hold the position for 25 years without crafting a pretty good Chinese finger trap of prohibition that we're stuck in. Between all of the treaties at the UN and our Controlled Substances Act, now he didn't have anything to do with that, but that was basically part of his legacy, you might say. His protégés took that on. It's a really tight little thing, and part of the thing that makes it so tough to fight is fighting it gets you attention as potentially being a criminal. So your moms, your dads, your people with square blue, white collar, blue collar jobs, people that are getting pee tested and stuff, they don't want to stand up and say, hey, I support marijuana legalization, because then, oh, why do you support it? And then the next thing you know, their coworkers at work are talking about them and the boss is wondering about them. And, a lot of people don't want that hassle or headache. There's so many people that want marijuana to be legal, but they can't or won't get out and do something about it. Well, I'll tell you, if you're one of those people that you have to be silent, you have to be in the closet, I don't judge. I know a lot of people that, I say, well, just don't take a drug test. And they say, well, it's easy for you to say. Well, it is easy for me to say because I'm a musician and a writer. So, I can get work and not have to pee test. But that's not the case for everyone. Lots of folks are getting by on urine smuggled in their bodies that they got from their straight friend, or a fake dong and some powdered urine in a heated up in a little heat pack. I mean, people are cheating drug tests all the time. Other people are just choosing not to use marijuana so they can pass their drug tests, even though they'd rather use marijuana than whatever it is they're using, alcohol, pills, whatever. It's a tough world out there. I totally understand that. But if you're one of those people that have to be in the closet, have to hide like that, help those of us who are out. Give your support, send your money to your local normal chapter, ASA, any group that's out there that's saying all the things you wish you could say, that's going and camping out at the legislature. I mean, you heard Rebecca talk about this, where you could plan your whole day to drive an hour to get to the state capitol for a particular hearing, and they can postpone the whole damn thing for a whole nother day or another week, or table it and it never happens. And there are so many times when these activists end up sitting for hours doing nothing because they have to, or else they'll miss the vote. Support those folks.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activist to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your Fired Up Lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your Fired Up Lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today. You can get 420 Radio on the go with our Shoutcast stream for all internet-enabled media players. Go to rad-r.us/420shout or just click the Shoutcast icon below the live radio feed at 420radio.org. Hey, Tokers and Tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED lighting.
That's music from Brian Posehn, More Metal Than You. That's right, Brian Posehn, the comedian, if you know of him. If you don't know Brian Posehn, go check out his latest stand-up act where he does a 10-minute riff on Ganja John. It's awesome. So that's Brian Posehn with More Metal Than You. We're going to go back to the Wayback Machine here for a second and have a little fun. I managed to unearth, High Times posted this today, and I wanted to share it with you. It's an unearthed marijuana commercial from the 1970s. So we're going to switch over to the video screen and check out, learn all about marijuana from the 1970s. Just say no. Educational Films presents...
Hey, young America, we need to talk. You may think this is uncool. You may even think it is bogus. But I want to tell you about something that has everyone buzzing. Something that concerns mature boys and girls just like you. Something called grass. Not that grass. I'm talking about marijuana. You may have heard of it. You may have seen someone smoking it, like those burnout bohemians or that crazy-eyed custodian at your school. You may have taken a toke or two. But do you know the whole story? Do you know the blunt truth? Weed, grass, ganja, joint, doobie, do, chronic, ace, lobo, loco, love boat, bud, buddha, blunt, pot, pat, pin, chiba, 420, and hashish, or hash for short. No matter what you call it, no matter what hip street lift it's referred or referred to by, it all comes from the same stash. It's all marijuana. I know what you're thinking. What is marijuana? What makes marijuana so dangerous? Where can I get some marijuana? Well, brother, I'm not going to nickel and dime you. I'm not like the man all you kids are rebelling against. I'm hip. I know what young people are dealing with these days. In fact, here are some of my free-thinking friends to prove how completely not square I really am.
Parents are hypocrites. They tell us one thing, but then they do another. Why don't they practice what they preach?
Adults never have time to listen to us. And when they do, they just don't think what we're saying. Why can't we dress the way we want in school?
So what about grass? Let's start with the basics. Marijuana is a plant that grows best with plenty of water and sunlight. Its leaves extend outwards in a star pattern some say resembles a hand. an open palm reaching out to claim its next victim. Rolled in zigzags, or puffed from 7th period woodshop projects, the smoke from this plant causes a brief state of euphoria, immediately followed by permanent insanity. Users are prone to unpredictable behavior, including junk food binges, joyride, and a sudden urge to wear sunglasses at night.
Marijuana should be made legal. Now!
Plus, they look flat out crazy. You there! Stop laughing. Laughing is a symptom caused by blowing pot. Take a good look at yourself. Are you addicted? Are your eyes half shut and bloodshot? Do you recognize that person in the mirror? Then blame it all on marijuana. Long-term use of marijuana can lead to a psychological dependency. Soon, you'll be taking all sorts of measures to get your fix. People will start calling you names like pothead or Smoky McBongwater. Losing all motivation, it's likely that you will drop out of school, take a sudden liking to sitar music, and maybe even get felt up by a cop or two. So why smoke grass?
I took it on a dare.
And if I dared you to jump off a cliff, would you do that too?
Man, everybody blows pot.
I know this one guy that doesn't. Wait, not that guy. This guy.
Oh, no, thank you. Not for me.
When I'm high, it enhances my creativity.
No, it doesn't. Look at these paintings. The artist was stoned when he painted these. Those don't look like real flowers. Is marijuana really where it's at? Is it really as righteous as you think? There is more to life than grass. There are fulfilling careers and groovy beach parties. The closer you look, the more seeds you find in your stash. Follow your hopes and dreams. Be someone. Do yourself and your country a favor. Don't let this happen to you.
Well, I think we've all learned an important lesson there from that educational film. Smoky McBongwater. That's pretty good. I like that one. Welcome back. It's Toker Talk Radio. We're just hanging out here 17 after the hour, getting ready for our 420 break. And we hope you have a good 420 break wherever you happen to be. And if you want to get involved with 420 Radio, you always can. And we always like to do nice things for our listeners. And one of the nice things we got going on this week are free tickets to see Chief Greenbud this Sunday at the Bluebird Theater in Denver, Colorado. Sunday, June 1st, you can get free tickets to see Chief Greenbud. I've got a few to give away, and all you got to do is email me. You can use our contact form at 420radio.org, or just email me directly, russ@radicalruss.com. You could win free tickets to see Chief Greenbud. It'll be good stuff, so check that out. Also, big thanks to Lush LED Lighting for sponsoring the Chief Greenbud Tour, and you can learn more about Chief Greenbud at chiefgreenbud.com. Coming up on the show, we've got a few more stories to talk about here in marijuana news that have just been going through just today. There was one story that I saw on Slate magazine that said the war on drugs has been a failure, but the war on booze deserves a second chance. And the author makes the case for tripling the taxes on alcohol and fighting a new, renewed war on alcohol rather than a war on marijuana. It's an interesting piece. We'll take a look at that after we get back from 20 after break. Also, yesterday there was a video we were to show for our Electric Tuesday from Pogo, and I finally got the video processed. So I'll show that in the second half hour. And coming up next week at 4:20 is when we're going to be having our regular daily Toker tunes. So next week this will completely shift. We'll have more music here in the second hour and more news and interviews in the first hour. Want to encourage everyone to get involved as best you can. Do what you can to support 420 Radio and support the local activists in your area. We are listener-supported cannabis community radio, and we're all about the activist base. If you've got a group, you've got a cause that you want to talk to people about, this is the platform where you can do it. Again, just go to our contact form at 420radio.org/contact and tell me about yourself, your group, your mission, and we can get you on the air. This is what we're all about, supporting the nonprofit organizations that are fighting for an end to adult marijuana prohibition. 420radio.org. Thanks you, and thanks all our VIPs for keeping us on the air. it's 4:20, so we're going to take our official union-mandated safety meeting break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about that proposition for more alcohol prohibition. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the best way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com.
I'm a reefer smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go.
Hi, this is Dan Michaels. If you're looking for professional voice talent for your commercial or podcast, I'm your man. Visit danmichaelsaudio.com for more information.
Usually I make a wee song, so here go a wee song. Usually I make a wee song, so here go a wee song.
Oh, poor Wiz Khalifa. That's Wiz Khalifa with Still Blazing. Got arrested in El Paso. Had a half a gram on him trying to go through the El Paso airport. Not his first brush with the law over weed. Probably won't be his last. But, you know, he'll be fine. He'll get probation. He'll get out of it. He's got money. He'll be fine. Not so for some of the other people that get busted in Texas with weed. Like that kid who baked some brownies. Pound and a half of brownies he made. Instead of making them with weed, he made them with hash oil. 4 grams of hash oil and a pound and a half of brownies. And because of that, well, by God, he needs to go to prison. 10 years to life. Had he made the same plate of brownies with the same potency, but had he used flour to get that potency rather than oil, he'd have gotten 6 months to 2 years. He'd get 6 months to 2 years. But because it's hash oil, you see, and that's so much scarier because, it's hash oil, right? This is the thing, right? It's understandable why we think of liquor, hard liquor, right? That's always the term, hard liquor. There's a reason why we think of hard liquor differently than we think of beer. And the reason is because you can chug a whole bunch of beer and get drunk. But if you chug a whole bunch of hard liquor, you can die. The potency of hard liquor compared to beer, right? Even your Portland style 8% beer, right? And then you're talking about 8% beer, that's like a 16 proof, right? And then you can get Jack Daniels at 80 proof. So that's 5 times, if my math is correct, I think it is, 5 times the potency, right? But there's an issue when we're talking about alcohol with 5 times the potency, because alcohol can kill you, and it takes a long time before you realize how much alcohol you've had. So there is a greater danger to a more potent alcohol because it can kill you. But when it comes to these BHO, it comes to this hash oil that is more potent, no doubt about it. It can't kill you. And so this thought that because he made brownies with hash oil, he needs to have a much greater punishment than if he'd made brownies with flour is ludicrous, especially considering that whether it came from hash oil or flour doesn't matter to how potent the brownies would have ended up. Right? This is like convicting someone for making a rum cake because they used Bacardi 151 instead of using 80 proof rum. Well, it doesn't matter how much of the 151 did they put in. Did they put in, a teaspoon or a shot or a cup, right? A cup of the 80 proof would be worse than a teaspoon of the 151 proof, wouldn't it? Just as the pot brownies could have been a lot more potent using flour to make them instead of oil. But because of the weird quirk in Texas laws that says hash oil is somehow not cannabis, it's somehow worse and different and scarier, this kid's got much more punishment that he's looking at. And it's just insane. It's just insane. Because this hash oil, again, is not going to kill anyone that uses it. And when you use the hash oil, at least when you're smoking it, there's that instant effect of knowing how it's affecting you. You can't make the argument that, the hash oil in the brownies, it's more potent, so you don't know how the brownies are going to affect you, because you don't know that with any brownie. Right? Again, it doesn't matter whether it came from flour or came from oil. The brownie itself could be potent or not potent. Doesn't matter if the hash was made. So anyway, that case has just been bugging the hell out of me. and it's this principle of the cops being able to charge people with the weight of the entire substance, regardless of how much actual drug is in it. That's the other thing that's disturbing about this. Is the kid gets prosecuted for 1.5 pounds of drugs. When really, it's 1.25 pounds of, he had 4 grams, right? So it's like 656 grams of brownie and 4 grams of oil. So this is a holdover that's been used for other drugs, specifically drugs whose weight is so small, is so low, that it would be hard to use a weight-based measure to charge them, right? And the most common example is LSD. So like with LSD, you used to get it on a sugar cube. Older folks will know this, right? You used to get LSD on a sugar cube. It's very nice. It tastes like sugar, it dissolves in your mouth. Very nice. Then they would start using that weight thing to charge people with LSD. So if you had like 3 sugar cubes that were tainted with even just a tiny bit of LSD, micrograms is what LSD is measured in, right? We're talking, millionths of grams. Is it microgram, millionth of gram? I'll have to look that one up. Chat room, get on it. Anyway, they were measuring this stuff in micrograms, but then you put it on a 1 gram sugar cube or a 2 gram sugar cube, and bam, you are doing major federal time because they're charging you for that whole weight. They do the same with the blotter paper now. They put that's why they switched from sugar cubes to paper. Easier to smuggle, less likely to be detected, right? And less weight. And the real LSD people I know are people that just go with the liquid stuff. They just have an eyedropper in the liquid. So it's just to charge people for the weight of the carrier just seems ludicrous to me. Just seems wrong. Especially in the case of this kid with the brownies. That's unconscionable, and I really hope the best for him. I hope he's got good legal representation and gets a lot of help in that case. All right, I want to talk about a story that's up here on Slate. If I can switch gears for a little bit. The headline is, alcohol taxes should be tripled. The war on drugs has been a failure, but the war on booze deserves a second chance. And the writer on this talks about how marijuana legalization is becoming popular. 54% in the latest Pew survey. Millennials support legalization at 69%. Colorado and Washington have legalized. And he says he thinks it's an okay development. He supports the regulation of controlled substances, but he's one of those that doesn't like the commercial legalization. He says ideally, non-commercial legalization via monopolies, ideally via monopolies owned and operated by state governments would be an improvement over the status quo. So we're starting with a guy whose frame of reference, and here's your frame of reference for this guy on marijuana legalization. He thinks it should be state-run stores. There shouldn't be any private enterprise in marijuana. The state should grow it. State should sell it. Ought to be a monopoly. Ideally, should be a monopoly owned and operated by the state government. That's his stance on marijuana legalization. All right, so we start from there. Okay. But then he also gets into the Pew survey points about 69% of Americans believe correctly that alcohol is more harmful to society than marijuana. 63% agree that even if marijuana was as available as alcohol would still be more harmful to society. So what he is saying is, let's ease up on marijuana prohibition and ramp up good old-fashioned alcohol prohibition. More precisely, I favor something like what libertarian journalist Greg Beto calls prohibition light. We have people that are openly calling for alcohol prohibition. This is amazing. All right. So he points out that, let me get to it. It says, alcohol is crazily dangerous and needs to be more tightly controlled. Everybody knows that prohibition was a disaster. What most of us forget is that the movement for prohibition arose because alcohol abuse actually was destroying American society in the first decades of the 20th century. And the strictly regulated post-prohibition alcohol market was shaped by still fresh memories of the pre-prohibition era. This is not a point to dismiss. You know, if you've seen the Ken Burns documentaries, you see that, you know, as a nation of drunkards, you know, alcohol abuse was really, really harming America. And he makes points as he goes on further here about Russia. You know, considering the pervasiveness of binge drinking in Russia, he says there's a political economist who believes that drunkenness is why a country like Russia, with literacy and education, is in the same ballpark living standards wise as Ecuador, right? Because their country is just too drunk. That's this guy's theory, right? Also points out Great Britain and their problems that they're having with the increase in alcohol consumption since the 1990s. And they say this has to do with vertical integration of the liquor business and, you know, this big alcohol culture that they've got in Britain. So I'm reading through this guy's article, and it seems, you know, it's reasonable to this point. And one of the big quotes here, one of the pull quotes from this is, raise the alcohol tax to a point just shy of where large numbers of people will start making moonshine in their bathtubs. What he wants to do here is to raise the price on alcohol and keep raising it until you find that equilibrium where the black market will kick in, where the prohibition market will kick in, where the moonshiners and distillers and the bootleggers will, you know, get it to just shy of that. Make drinking alcohol that much more difficult. Now, there's some problems with this theory. First of which would be, you've got a country of people who have come now to think of their right, of the ability to drink alcohol as a right. And a lot of them, it's part of the identity of America. An ice cold beer and a Ford pickup truck and an apple pie and a bald eagle and mom, and right? It's part of the American identity. So I think any effort to triple the taxes on alcohol to make, you know, I don't even know what a 12-pack of beer costs these days, but to double that cost, whatever. We've already seen some black market cropping up around cigarettes to an extent now. In places like Washington State, you know, like the number one place, I believe, to get cigarettes in Oregon is in Jansen Beach, just across the river from Washington State, where they have exorbitant taxes on smoking. So this one little convenience store sells a ton of smokes just across the river because Oregon's got lesser taxes on this. And this goes to a greater extent in places like New York City, where a pack of smokes can cost $10. So people can make a lot of profit going over to nearby North Carolina or Virginia or some Indian reservation, pick up low tax or no tax smokes there, cart a van load of it back to Manhattan and sell it on the streets. Even if you sell it at $7 a pack, people are selling saving $3 a pack, and you're making $3 a pack. You can turn a van load of smokes into $50,000 in a weekend. So I worry too much when we start thinking about this. Let's punitively high tax things to get people to not do things we dislike. This punitive taxation idea. We'll examine it some more when we come back from break. There's some other proposals here in this article that'll make you shake your head.
Smoke trees till you get what you need now. Designer drugs and minted smokes to get through the day. You always get them so high.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Marijuana, do you wanna? Mary, do you wanna tonight?
As marijuana goes mainstream, you need to be armed with the facts. Nobody can teach you better than Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Ph.D. You may know Dr. Mitch from his column in High Times magazine or his weekly appearance on the Russ Belville Show. Dr. Mitch is also the author of some of the best books on marijuana science, culture, history, and health, including Understanding Marijuana, Parents' Guide to Marijuana, Pot Politics, and more. Visit Amazon.com and search for Mitch Earlywine, that's EARLEYWINE, and order your books today. You can also contact Dr. Mitch by email at 420research@gmail.com.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420.
In the afternoon, if I'm home, I smoke marijuana.
You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with the TuneIn Radio app for all mobile platforms. Go to rad-r.us/420tunein or just click the TuneIn Radio icon below the live radio feed on 420radio.org.
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks may be far less than those posed by legal drugs.
Welcome back, everyone. 39 after the hour here, hanging out at Toker Talk Radio at Rolla J Studios in beautiful Portland, Oregon, and reminding you that you can win tickets to see Chief Greenbud. You don't have to win anything. You just email and get them. He's performing June 1st, this Sunday, at the Bluebird Theater in Denver, Colorado. Email me, russ@radicalruss.com, and I'll get you some tickets. I'll get you in. All right, so we were talking about this piece in Slate magazine online about tripling the alcohol tax. We should triple the alcohol tax from 10 cents a drink to 30 cents a drink. Okay. We should triple the alcohol tax to fight back against, the scourge of how terrible alcohol is as a drug. And we want to raise the taxes just high enough to the point just before the moonshiners and the bootleggers and the Tommy guns come out, I guess. So someone in the chat room said, this guy reminds me of Mark Kleiman. Well, funny you should mention it. Mark Kleiman, the UCLA public policy professor who was hired by the state of Washington to consult on their marijuana legalization, the one who said that state legalization is just really something that can't happen, the one who's got the philosophy of making it as difficult and expensive as possible to use marijuana or any other drug, make it as difficult as possible, just shy of the spot where people will react violently to it. That's the guy who consulted. Anyway, he's part of writing this book, Marijuana Legalization, What Everyone Needs to Know. That the author of this piece, who is a protege of Kleiman's, the author of this piece quotes from Marijuana Legalization, What Everyone Needs to Know, saying that the authors estimate that at current beer prices, it costs $5 to $10 to get drunk. Yeah, $5 to $10 to get drunk. Or as they put it, $1 or $2 per drunken hour. Fellas, come on now. $5 or $10, $1 or $2 per drunken hour. So, if I'm getting ready to go out to the bars tonight, hang out with my friends, listen to some music, maybe put the moves on a pretty lady, I can budget $2 an hour and I should be fine. I mean, I'm not going to buy drinks for anyone else, just for myself. I should be able to go out and for $10 be able to hang out for 5 hours. Okay, yeah, sure. All right. You can't even get, I don't even know if you can get drunk on cheap beer for $10. I mean, like I say, I don't buy beer anymore. I don't know what a 12-pack costs. What does it cost, chat room? What does it cost for a 12-pack of beer where you're at? I don't know. But I know it cost me at least $50. If I was going to go out and get a buzz on, it's going to cost me $50 for that night. So I don't know where they're pulling these numbers, and it makes me doubt much of the rest of this theory here. All right, Runaround says a 6-pack is $6. All right, I know a 6-pack of beer would get me, if I drank the whole 6-pack in an hour, I might get a buzz. So $6 an hour minimum for me. All right. Anyway, they say that we should raise the price on alcohol, the federal alcohol tax, from 10 cents to 30 cents per drink. An increase they estimate would prevent 6% of homicides and 6% of motor vehicle deaths, thus sparing 3,000 lives. And so they say charging 2 drink per day drinkers an extra $12 per month. Okay, so 2 drinks a day, 30 cents a drink is 60 cents a day. $12 a month. I guess that math works out. Seems like a laughably small price to pay to deter binge drinking. Then, of course, there's the fact that a higher alcohol tax would also raise revenue. So, here's what I don't understand. Part of what they don't like about the commercialized alcohol or commercialized, what they'll see as the commercialized big marijuana business, part of their complaint, the Kleiman camp here, is that these for-profit industries are going to want to market to the heaviest alcoholics or the heaviest pot smokers, the old Pareto rule, the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your sales come from 20% of your customers. Kleiman always likes to make a big deal that drink responsibly. If that was really what the alcohol companies wanted, they'd go out of business because they really depend on all those alcoholics and those binge drinkers that are drinking, the 18-pack a night or whatever. So the theory here is that that's bad. We don't want that profit motive to be bestowed upon some business that would then go after and corrupt the most frail addicts out there. So let's do that with the government instead. Right? Because he just said in that line, he said, you raise the alcohol taxes, more revenue will come in to the government. So the government then has this incentive to keep raising the taxes to the point at which, well, there's no point at which to stop, right? There's no reason not to stop raising the alcohol taxes. I guess where you find it's a point of diminishing returns, right? Like if we tax it at 10%, we got 1 million drinkers. We tax it at 20%, we got 750,000 drinkers. We tax it at 30%, we got 500,000 drinkers. And at some point, you'll have the tax high enough where if you tax it any higher, you'll lose more drinkers than tax you'll make up. So that's really what this is a theory of, is let's let the equilibrium of alcohol in its market be determined by a government restricting its access to as many people as possible that maximizes how much tax they can get out of it. And that seems like a problem to me too. It's an interesting article because we are talking about alcohol, which has different effects than we have for marijuana. But here's what he says. He says, charging an extra $12 a month seems like a laughably small price to pay to deter binge drinking. If, of course, there is the fact that a higher alcohol tax would also raise revenue. If you're going to tax tanning beds and sugary soft drinks, why on earth wouldn't you raise alcohol taxes too? If anything, 30 cents a drink isn't high enough. Let's raise the alcohol tax to the point just shy of where large numbers of people will start making illegal moonshine in their bathtubs. All right, so this is fun to speculate about. Completely impossible given the lobbying power of the alcohol industry and the love of American culture for beer. I don't see these things happening anytime soon. But here's another proposal they have. Kleiman and the other authors have also suggested creating separate drinking licenses. Drinking licenses. You'd have to be a registered drinker. You know, like a registered medical marijuana patient. You'd have to be a registered drinker. You'd have to get a government drinking license. Bars wouldn't just check the IDs of the young-looking. They'd check everyone's drinking licenses. And those who've had them revoked for some reason, drunk driving, let's say, would be bounced. Oh, yeah, there's no unintended consequences to worry about from this idea. All right, look what happens. If you set it up so drunks lose their drinking license, it does not make them no longer drunks. It makes them underground drunks. It makes them customers for those few people who are going to start making the moonshine and the bathtub gin. Because remember, we're going to raise it just shy of where large numbers of people will start making illegal moonshine. So, you know, if there's just a few and they're just, you know, taking care of the alcoholics who've lost their drinking licenses, yeah, that'll work. You know, kind of how like we take their, yeah, right. All right, drinking licenses. Now, there is another idea they have, which I actually would be in support of. A related reform, this is again, quote from the Slate article, booze is way more dangerous than pot, so we should triple alcohol taxes. Sentence is, a related reform would actually lower the drinking age to get underage drinking out of the shadows and to socialize older teenagers into drinking responsibly. Exactly. Now, I'm actually for that. I think there should be a graduated drinking age. Like at 18, you can get, your 3-2 beer. At 21, you can drink anything you want. Maybe even bring it lower than that. At 16, you can drink 3-2 beer. At 18, you can drink wine and real beer, 8% beer, whatever, 10% beer. And at 21, you can drink liquor and shots. I don't know. It might be tough to, govern that in a busy bar situation. I can understand that. But still, the idea of lowering the drinking age is the only sensible reform I've read in this whole thing here. And as people have responded to this, they've noted how part of the problem here is you want to tax this stuff, but you tax it too high and you just set up the black market. And that's somewhat what they've got going on in Colorado right now. So the other problem with this too is that a pot grow in and of itself isn't something that's really dangerous to general society, but a still can be, right? Those things can blow up. So anything that's going to raise the taxes to force even some people over to using to going to a black market is problematic to me. So I don't know. This idea of having a renewed war on something, I think what needs to happen is there just has to be more education. I always believe that the answer to a lot of these things is just more education and more freedom, believe it or not. Again, lower the drinking age, get it to the point where, 18, 19, 21, 20, 21-year-olds are better socialized into responsible drinking. As it is now, we keep them in the frat houses and away from where there might be any sort of supervision of them. So let's make that change. I don't know about raising the taxes. That seems a little much to me. All right, we got to take a break, wind things up here. We got our last segment coming up, and then following that, we've got Gordon Green's Music Planet, an artist focus on Rashid Taha coming up tonight. So stay tuned for that. 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. on 420 Radio.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisements because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cast your eyes up to the skies. What is it to live and die? Calculated stars and lights.
Are you or is someone you know a marijuana smoker? Have you or is someone in your family been arrested for a marijuana violation? You need to know the truth about pot. NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, is the most comprehensive source of information regarding marijuana and its effects on health, as well as legal issues. NORML even offers a database of lawyers specializing in cannabis in your area. NORML, the nation's largest and most successful marijuana law reform organization, has spent decades gathering the knowledge and science on everything related to cannabis. NORML is the best resource to find out the truth about marijuana, connect with a lawyer in your area, or help find an end to prohibition. Information is available at norml.org, that's NORML.org, or toll free at 888-67-NORML.
Big Daddy thinks.
Funky roller ring, roller ring, roller ring, roller ring.
I like it.
My life in the sunshine. Everybody loves the sunshine.
This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay. Read the Weed Blog today.
All right, welcome back. That's the Big Fellas with 420. I'm Radical Russ, and I'm going to take a moment here just to go off the warpath for just the next 3 minutes on something that's just, again, ludicrous. And for those of you who don't know, Off the Warpath, new segment I'm doing where I talk about something that has nothing to do with the drug war. Although this does have something to do with the drug war, kind of. It's about the death penalty, right? And, not going to talk about for or against it. Although I'll give you my thumbnail sketch on it is I'm absolutely for the death penalty if we can guarantee 100% guilt. Now, in our justice system, you think we can 100% guarantee someone's guilt? Hard to say sometimes. But there was a decision by the Supreme Court this week that made it harder for states to execute the mentally disabled. This was, 12 years ago. The Supreme Court determined that a state couldn't execute a person who was mentally retarded, the term they used back in the day. But they left it to the states to decide whether or not someone was too mentally disabled to put to death. So Florida, being one of them states that loves killing people, Florida decided that, well, how we determine someone's mentally ill is if they have a 70 IQ. If they have a 70 IQ or lower, then they're smart enough to kill. They're smart enough to put to death. which is weird in the first place, right? It's like, oh, well, we can't put mentally retarded people to death, mentally disabled people to death, pardon me, people with less than a 70 IQ to death, but we can put someone with a 71 IQ to death. And that's what happened in the case of this guy. This is the Supreme Court case, had to do with this guy, Hall was his name, Freddie Lee Hall. And they were awful monsters. Kidnapped, beat, and raped and murdered a 21-year-old pregnant woman, drove to rob a convenience store and killed a sheriff's deputy who tried to arrest him, right? So not forgiving in any way what they did, right? But Florida decided they could put this guy to death because he had a 71 IQ. And the way they counted this is they tested him 9 times over 40 years. Okay? 9 times over 40 years. His scores ranged from 60 to 80. So out of 9 tests, a range of 60 to 80. But the court didn't count the 2 lowest ones. The ones that were below 70. So that left 7 scores that started at 71. And the Florida cutoff for so-called mental retardation is 70 or below. So for the Florida court system, he got put to death by 1 IQ point. Now, the argument for the defense was IQ tests have a standard error of measurement of plus or minus 5 points. So he was saying, well, you could use 75 as a cutoff, but not 70. So the court, in a 5-4 decision, Supreme Court, said that, no, you can't put this guy to death. So this just seems so odd to me that we're going to mark on a test somewhere by how well they score on the bubble sheets. 75, 70, 71, as to whether or not we can put a criminal to death. It sounds just weird to me. If we think it's so heinous to put someone who's dumb to death, why is it better to put them to death if they're smart? Is the argument that the mentally disabled person doesn't have the mens rea, doesn't have the capability to know that they're doing right or wrong? I guess that would have to be the argument. Seems weird to me, though. Anyway, that's all the time we got for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. Thanks for joining us. Coming up next, Gordon Green's Music Planet. For everyone here at 420radio.org, I'm Radical Russ. We'll join you tomorrow live at 3 p.m. Pacific Time right here at Rolla J Studios in beautiful Portland, Oregon. We got our Law Enforcement Against Prohibition guest joining us tomorrow. And our friend Bradley Steinman will join us on Friday. So stay tuned. I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
Take a seat, you plant it, you grow it, you